Avery had always chased the sun across the Atlantic, trading the flat sprawl of her Ohio hometown for the labyrinthine alleys of Seville. At 22, she was a junior-year abroad student, majoring in art history at the University of Seville, where the air smelled of jasmine and fried churros, and every corner whispered stories of flamenco dancers and Moorish kings. Her days blurred into sketches of Goya's ghosts in the Alcazar and late-night tapas crawls, but her nights were haunted by a truth she'd buried deeper than the Roman ruins beneath her feet. Mila Ruiz was the spark that had ignited her new life here. 23, a local with a half-American heart, her mother a transplant from Miami, they'd met on Avery's first day, when Mila, a linguistics major and unofficial campus tour guide, had caught her fumbling with a map outside the cathedral. Lost gringa, Mila had teased, her accent a melodic twist of Castilian Spanish and Florida drawl, her dark eyes crinkling with that effortless charm that made Avery's stomach flip in ways she couldn't name back then. From there, it was inseparable. Mila teaching Avery the art of siesta skipping and secret rooftop picnics overlooking the river. Avery dragging Mila to underground jazz clubs where they'd sway to saxophone solos until dawn. Mila's apartment in the Triana neighborhood became their sanctuary. A cramped two-bedroom with peeling ochre walls, a balcony strung with fairy lights, and a kitchen perpetually scented with Mila's abuela's gazpacho recipe. Avery's parents back home thought it was just a study abroad fling with friendship. Little did they know, for Avery, it was the slow unraveling of a cocoon. But lately the threads had tightened. Avery's sketches had shifted from cathedrals to the curve of Mila's jawline in repose, her pencil lingering on the way Mila's laughter lit up like fireworks over the Feria de Abril. It wasn't just admiration anymore. It was a pull, magnetic and terrifying, toward the one person she couldn't afford to lose. Coming out, to anyone, felt like leaping from the Giralda Tower without a parachute. In Seville, where machismo lingered like cigar smoke and queer visibility was a quiet revolution, Avery had seen the whispers, the sidelong glances at pride parades that drew more tourists than locals. She wasn't ready for the world. But Mila? Mila was her world. Safe. Unbreakable. That rainy Tuesday evening, as storm clouds bruised the sky over the Plaza de España, Avery had cracked. They'd been sprawled on the living room rug, a half-empty bottle of Rioja between them, dissecting a disastrous group project on Lorca's poetry. Lorca, the gay poet martyred by fascists, whose words about forbidden love had twisted like a knife in Avery's chest. "What if I told you something that could change everything?" Avery had said, her voice barely above the patter outside. Mila propped herself on an elbow, her black hair cascading like ink over one shoulder, that knowing smile playing on her lips. "You know you can tell me anything, Avenue. We're ride or die, remember? Like Thelma and Louise, but with better wine." Avery's heart had thundered. She sat up, knees drawn to her chest, the words clawing their way out. I'm gay, Mila. I've known for a while, but saying it out loud? It's like admitting I'm not who I thought I was. Or maybe I am finally. And I needed you to know first." The silence stretched, thick as the humid air. Mila's face softened, her hand reaching out to squeeze Avery's knee. "Oh honey, that's huge. I'm so proud of you." She pulled Avery into a hug, fierce and warm, her chin resting on Avery's shoulder. "Your secret's safe with me. Pinky swear." They linked fingers like kids, giggling through the tears, the rain a curtain sealing their pact. Avery went to bed that night lighter than she had in years, the confession a stone lifted from her lungs. She dreamed of sun-drenched plazas where Mila walked beside her, hand in hand, no shadows chasing them. By morning the dream curdled. Avery woke to the buzz of her phone, insistent as a hornet's nest. Texts flooded in, from her study abroad coordinator, classmates she'd barely spoken to, even her RA back in Ohio. "Is it true?" One read from Sophia, the bubbly exchange student from Barcelona. "Saw it on Insta Wild." Another from Jake, the lacrosse bro who'd hit on her at orientation. "Dude, props if it's real. Party at mine tonight to celebrate." Her stomach plummeted. She bolted upright, the sheets tangling around her legs like accusations. The apartment was quiet. Mila must have already left for her 9 a.m. seminar. Avery grabbed her phone, thumbs trembling as she opened Instagram. There it was, pinned at the top of the campus gossip page, Seville Secrets. A blurry photo of her and Mila from last week's beach day in Cadiz, arms slung around each other, Captioned in blocky white text. Breaking Ohio girls got a crush on her roomie? Coming out story of the semester. Stay tuned for tea. Seville spills queer and clear. The likes were climbing into the hundreds. Comments cascaded like vultures. Knew she was too artsy for straight. Mila's reaction? Gold. This is why I love study abroad drama. Avery's name was tagged everywhere. Her face pixelated but unmistakable. How? The photo was from Mila's private stories. Ones Avery had laughed over, never imagining they'd become ammunition. Nausea hit like a wave. She stumbled to the bathroom, retching into the sink as the pieces slammed together. Mila. It had to be. Who else knew? Who else had access to that intimacy? The door to Mila's room was ajar, and Avery pushed it open, her bare feet cold on the tile. Mila's bed was made, but her laptop sat open on the desk, screen glowing with the gossip page. Drafts of posts littered the desktop. My bestie just dropped a bomb. Guess who's playing for the other team? Smirking face, Avery's vision blurred with hot tears. Betrayal wasn't a word. It was a blade twisting slow. She didn't wait for Mila to come home. Instead, she fled to the one place that had always felt like armor. The rooftop of the old convent-turned-library, where she'd go to sketch and breathe. Seville sprawled below, a mosaic of terracotta and turquoise, but today it mocked her. A city of secrets that hid nothing. Her phone kept vibrating, ignored now, as she curled against the stone parapet, sobs racking her frame. How could Mila do this? After everything, the late-night confessions about Mila's own family pressures, the abuela who prayed rosaries for her wayward daughter, the dreams they'd shared of escaping to New York together post-graduation. Avery had trusted her with her soul, and Mila had auctioned it for clout. Hours blurred into a haze. By afternoon the rain had cleared, leaving a sticky heat that clung like guilt. Avery's coordinator called Professor Elena, a no-nonsense woman with a buzz cut and a rainbow pin on her lapel. Avery Carino, come to my office. We need to talk about this. Exposure. Avery went, numb, the walk across campus a gauntlet of stares and whispers. In Elena's cramped space surrounded by stacks of faded manuscripts, the truth spilled out again. This time laced with fury. It's everywhere, Avery choked. My best friend. She told. Or posted. I don't even know anymore. Elena's face hardened, but her voice was gentle. Betrayal cuts deepest from those we love most. But listen, this isn't the end of your story. It's a chapter. And in Spain we've got centuries of rewriting narratives. She slid a flyer across the desk. Grupo Arcoiris. A queer support circle meeting that night at a bar in Santa Cruz. Go. Or don't. But don't let her silence you twice. Avery nodded, but inside the wound festered. Love for Mila, for this city, for herself, felt like a luxury she couldn't afford. That evening, as the sun dipped into a flamenco of oranges and pinks, Avery found herself at Las Golondrinas, a dimly lit taberna tucked behind the real Alcazar. The air hummed with guitar strings and the low murmur of voices, a sanctuary of mismatched chairs and candle stubs. She nursed a vermouth, the bitter edge mirroring her mood, when a voice cut through. Room for one more heartbroken soul? It was Sophia, the Barcelona girl from the texts, sliding into the seat across from her. 21, with a pixie-cut dyed electric blue and tattoos of Audre Lorde quotes snaking up her arms, Sophia was the kind of unapologetically queer that Avery envied from afar. Saw the post. Hated it. But you're here, that's badass. Avery managed a watery smile. Feels more like stupid. I trusted the wrong person. Sophia leaned in, her eyes fierce. Trust isn't wrong, people are. Mila Ruiz? I've heard the stories. She's got this thing for drama, feeds her ego. But you? You're the real deal. That confession took guts. They talked until the candles guttered low, about Sophia's own coming out at 16, disowned then reclaimed by her family, about the underground queer scene in Seville, from drag brunches to poetry slams where words like Avery's could heal. For the first time since morning, Avery felt seen, not as a scandal but as a story unfolding. But the night wasn't done twisting. As they stepped into the cooling alley, Mila was there, leaning against a lamppost, her red dress a slash of regret in the twilight. Ave, wait. Please. Sophia tensed, but Avery held up a hand. Not now. Mila's voice broke. I didn't mean for it to blow up like this. It was just. A story. For my followers. I thought it'd be empowering, you know? Like, look at my brave friend. But then it spiraled and I'm sorry. Empowering. The word landed like ash. Avery's chest tightened, the betrayal sharpening into something rawer. Not just exposure but exploitation. You turned my truth into your content. Do you even get what that cost me? My parents saw it before I could tell them. Strangers are demanding me slurs. And you? You're sorry because it backfired. Mila stepped closer, eyes glistening. I was scared too, okay? Scared of what it means for us. Because, Avery, I felt it too. That pull. And if you're gay, then what does that make me? The alley spun. Avery's breath hitched, Mila admitting it. The girl who'd dated half the soccer team, who'd laughed off Avery's crushes as just girl stuff. Was this real or another layer of the con? I need space, Avery said finally, voice steel. Figure out why you'd sell me out for likes. Then maybe we'll talk. She walked away with Sophia's arm around her shoulders, the weight of possibility mingling with the ache. Seville's streets, alive with laughter from distant fiestas, reminded her. Heartbreak wasn't the end. It was the forge. Days bled into a fragile routine, each one a tightrope over the chasm Mila had carved. Avery threw herself into her classes, her sketches evolving from soft portraits to jagged abstracts. Splintered arches and shadowed figures that Professor Elena praised as visceral evolution. She skipped the apartment after dark, crashing on Sophia's couch in the Macarena district, where the air was thicker with the scent of olive oil and rebellion. Sophia's place was a riot of color. Walls plastered with zines from Madrid's queer collectives, a fridge stocked with horchata and protest stickers. Mi casa yes tu casa, Sophia would say, tossing Avery a spare key like it was armor. But the whispers followed. In the university's cloistered courtyard, classmates who'd once borrowed her notes now averted eyes or offered pitying smiles. Drama queen, one muttered during a lecture on Velázquez's hidden homoeroticism. Irony that stung like salt. Avery's parents called from Ohio, their voices a mix of shock and support. Dad's gruff, "We love you, kiddo," always did. Mom's teary, "Why didn't you tell us first?" Guilt gnawed at her. Seville was supposed to be her grand reveal, not a viral footnote. Mila's texts piled up like unanswered prayers. "Can we talk? I deleted everything. I miss you." Avery read them in the dead of night, thumb hovering over reply, heart a battlefield. Part of her ached for the Mila who'd braided her hair during hangovers, who'd confessed her own fears of never measuring up to her golden child brother. But trust? That was a bridge burned to cinders. The turning point came on a sweltering Friday, during the Corpus Christi procession. Seville transformed into a tapestry of floats and incense, penitents in pointed hoods shuffling past flower-strewn streets. Avery had planned to sketch from afar, but Sophia dragged her into the fray. Immersion therapy, chica. They wove through the crowds near the cathedral, the air electric with chants and the toll of bells, when Avery spotted her. Mila volunteering with the florists, her hands deftly arranging carnations into a massive alfombra. A floral carpet trampled underfoot by the procession. Their eyes locked across the throng. Mila froze, petals scattering from her fingers like confetti regrets. Avery's pulse raced, run or confront. She chose the latter, pushing through the press of bodies until they stood inches apart, the scent of roses warring with the undercurrent of Mila's vanilla shampoo. "You look like hell," Avery said, no preamble. Mila's laugh was brittle. "But, calla. I've been sleeping on the balcony. Can't stand the quiet without you yelling at bad subtitles." Avery crossed her arms, the crowd's murmur a distant roar. Flattery won't fix this. Why, Mila? Really? Was it jealousy? Boredom? Or just you needing to be the hero of someone else's story? Mila's gaze dropped to the crushed blooms at their feet. All of it, maybe. And none. Growing up here, with abuelas church ladies side-eyeing everything, I learned to control the narrative. Post the perfect life and no one questions the cracks. When you told me, it was beautiful avenue terrifying. Made me face my own mess. So I shared it. To make it ours, I guess. Stupid, selfish way to say I feel the same. Avery's breath caught. The same? As in? Into you. Have been since that first map fumble. But admitting it? To myself, to you? Easier to leak it than live it. The procession surged past, a wave of white-robed figures parting around them like a river around stones. Avery's mind reeled. Love, confessed amid the trample of traditions. But the hurt lingered, a shadow. You could have just said it. Instead, you outed me to the world. Do you know what that's like? To have your skin flayed open for entertainment. Mila nodded, tears carving tracks through the dust on her cheeks. I do now. Because every comment, every like, it was me getting flayed too. Seeing you hurt? It's worse than any backlash. I quit the gossip page. Told my followers to shove it. And Abuela. She knows now. About me. Screamed, prayed, then hugged me. Said love's the real procession, messy but it marches on. Avery searched her face. The vulnerability there a mirror to her own. The bells tolled again, a call to move forward. I don't know if I can forgive you yet. But I want to try. For us. If there's an us. Mila's hand trembled as she reached out, not for a hug but a pinky, echoing that rainy night. Pinky swear. No more secrets. Just us rewriting this. They linked fingers amid the floral carnage, the crowd oblivious to their quiet vow. It wasn't absolution. It was a seed planted in the rubble. That tentative bridge led to the storm's heart 2 weeks later, on the eve of the Feria de Abril, or what was left of it, the late spring edition, a riot of polka dot dresses and casetas pulsing with sevillanas. Avery had resisted going. The fair, with its whirlwind of romance and revelry, felt too raw. But Sophia, ever the instigator, showed up at the apartment with tickets and a glare. You're not hiding forever. And Mila? She's waiting. Mila had been patient, daily coffees at their old haunt, the Café de la Prensa, where she'd listen without pushing, sharing slices of her own unraveling, therapy sessions with a queer counselor in town, coming out to her brother over FaceTime. He'd sent a care package of Miami rainbow cookies. Avery tested the waters, sharing sketches of their potential. A future in New York, gallery shows and shared lofts. Each one a step from wound to wonder. But the feria was the crucible. They arrived as dusk fell, the fairgrounds ablaze of lanterns and laughter, the air thick with the sizzle of Espeedo skewers and the twang of guitars. Mila, in a ruffled flamenca dress the color of sangria, looked like temptation incarnate. Avery, in jeans and a simple blouse, felt underdressed for the drama. They danced awkwardly at first, hands tentative, steps stumbling, until the music pulled them under, bodies sinking in the whirl of skirts and sweat. On the outskirts, near the row of casetas rented by expat groups, the idol shattered. A cluster of Mila's old friends, the influencer squad, as Avery dubbed them, spotted them from across the dirt path. Leading the pack was Carla, a sharp-tongued fashion blogger with a feed full of filtered perfection, who'd commented fire emojis on the gossip post. Well, if it isn't the Scandal sisters, Carla drawled, her entourage tittering. Wine glasses sloshed in their hands, loosening tongues. Mila, you really went there? Outing your roomie for clout? Savage. Mila stiffened, her grip on Avery's waist tightening. Back off, Carla. That was a mistake, and it's done. Carla's eyes narrowed, flicking to Avery like she was a prop. Mistake? It was gold. Got you 5K followers overnight. But hey, if you're playing house now, does that mean Ohio hears the upgrade? Or just pity? The words landed like barbs, and Avery felt the old exposure flare. Naked under the lanterns. We're not your content, she shot back, voice steady despite the tremor. And if dragging people for likes is your vibe, maybe log off. The group murmured, but Carla pressed, stepping closer. Oh honey, this city's small. Everyone knows. Your little love story? It's trending in the group chats. Bet your parents love that import-export of drama. Mila exploded then, whirling on her former friend. Enough. You think this is a game? Avery trusted me and I blew it, bigger than any of your sponsored posts. But we're building something real here. Not your fake-ass filters. So take your toxicity and choke on it. The casetta fell silent, heads turning. Carla blinked, caught off guard, then huffed a laugh. Fine. Play martyrs. But don't cry when the likes dry up. She stormed off, her flock trailing like wilted shadows. In the aftermath, Avery and Mila stood breathless, the music a distant throb. You didn't have to, Avery started. I did, Mila cut in, cupping Avery's face. For you. For us. No more half measures. They kissed then under the feria's kaleidoscope. A soft press of lips tasting of rebujito and redemption. The world blurring to cheers and chaos. It wasn't perfect. Scars don't vanish in spotlights. But it was theirs, claimed amid the trample. As the night deepened, they wandered to the Guadalquivir's edge, away from the frenzy, sitting on the grass with stolen churros. Mila leaned her head on Avery's shoulder. Think we can make it? Back home or here? Avery traced the stars reflected in the water. We already are. One honest step at a time. Summer unfurled over Seville like a lover's lazy sigh. The heat wave turning the city into a furnace of siestas and shadowed patios. Avery and Mila navigated their new rhythm with the caution of dancers learning a pas de deux. Mornings tangled in sheets that smelled of salt and sunscreen. Afternoons sketching in the Alcazar's shaded groves. Evenings debating Borges over Tinto de Verano on the balcony. The gossip had faded to embers, buried under exam crunches and the relentless churn of semester's end. But the lessons lingered like humidity. Trust was a garden weeded daily. Avery's parents visited in June. A whirlwind of Midwestern earnestness clashing with Andalusian ease. Dad, a burly mechanic with calloused hands, grilled Mila over paella about her intentions. His gruff exterior cracking when she confessed her own coming-out jitters. Mom, ever the romantic, pulled Avery aside in the Triana market, amid stalls of embroidered shawls. She's got fire, that one. Reminds me of me at your age. Scared but swinging. By departure, hugs were exchanged at the airport. Promises of Thanksgiving invites floating like confetti. Avery felt anchored, her worlds no longer at war. Yet the real test brewed in Mila's family folds. Abuela Ruiz, a formidable septuagenarian with silver-streaked braids and a tongue sharper than manchego rind, had thawed from frosty disapproval to wary curiosity. This American, she'd mutter during Sunday lunches in her Triana cortijo, ladling cocido madrileno with a side eye. She eats my soup without complaint. Maybe not all Yankees are lost. But beneath the banter lurked old wounds, Spain's Franco-era ghosts, where love like theirs was whispered in cellars, not shouted from balconies. The climax crested in late July, during the Romeria del Rocío, a pilgrimage to the Virgin Shrine in the Dinana Marshes, a spectacle of covered wagons, horseback processions, and fervent songs that drew half of Seville into a fever of faith and fiesta. Mila's family went annually, a ritual of penance and pride. And this year, she insisted Avery join. It's my roots, Mila said, braiding wildflowers into her hair. And I want you in them. Avery hesitated. The event's intensity, with its blend of Catholic fervor and communal joy, felt like tempting fate. But love, she was learning, meant showing up, even when the path was thorned. They rode in Abuela's weathered carroza, a flower-decked wagon pulled by mules. Avery perched beside Mila amid baskets of salmorejo and flasks of sherry. The route wound through cork oak groves, dust kicking up like incense, the air alive with salves and strums of guitar. Laughter flowed as freely as the anise-scented aguardiente, but Avery sensed the undercurrent, cousins' sidelong glances, aunts' murmured blessings that felt more like wards. By nightfall, as the caravan camped in the pine-scented flats near El Rocío, the bonfires crackled to life. Families gathered in circles, voices rising in saetas, spontaneous flamenco cries to the stars, while lanterns swung from wagon tongues like fireflies. Mila pulled Avery into the fray. Their hands linked as they swayed to the rhythms, the heat of bodies and flames blurring boundaries. Then, like a gust through the embers, conflict ignited. Tío Javier, Mila's uncle, a bull-necked rancher with a mustache like a broom and opinions forged in the dictatorship's forge, had been nursing his rebujito all evening. Spotting the women entwined, he lumbered over, face ruddy. Mila, what's this? Parading your friend like some fairy afloat? In front of the Virgin? Have you no shame? The circle hushed, flames popping in the silence. Abuela straightened, her shawl slipping like a challenge. Mila's grip tightened on Avery's hand, knuckles white. Tio, it's not parade. It's love. Same as yours for Tia Rosa, fiercer maybe because we fought for it. Javier barked a laugh, sloshing his flask. Love? This gringa nonsense? You're shaming the family, Nina. Back in my day we kept such deviations quiet, not flaunted like some tourist's rainbow flag. Avery's blood roared, the old exposure flaring fresh. But this wasn't anonymous comments. This was flesh and blood, the betrayal not of pixels but patrimony. She stepped forward, voice calm as the marsh breeze. With respect, senor, it's not flaunting. It's living. And if your day meant hiding, I'm glad mine doesn't. Mila's braver than that. Braver than the bulls you breed. Murmurs rippled, shock, then nods from younger cousins. Javier's face purpled, but Abuela intervened, rising like a queen. Enough, Javier. You've drunk your fill of bitterness. My Mila's heart is pure. The Virgin sees that. And this Avery? She honors us with her presence. Sit, or go sleep it off with the mules. The uncle grumbled but retreated, the circle exhaling. Mila turned to Avery, eyes shining. You didn't have to defend me. Like you defended me at the feria? We're in this procession together. Abuela watched them, then beckoned. Over shared plates of tortas de anís by the fire, she spoke, words halting at first, then flowing like the Guadalquivir at flood. When Franco's shadows fell, love like yours hid in attics. My sister. She had a girl once. They parted oceans to stay safe. I envied her courage then. I honor it now. She pressed a silver milagro, a tiny miracle charm, into Avery's palm. For your path. Straight or winding, it's blessed. Tears pricked as the saetas swelled again, the group joining in a hymn that wove pain and praise. In that moment, under Dinana's vast sky, Avery felt the arc bend. Not toward tragedy but transcendence. Betrayal had been the fracture. This was the mending, humanistic in its quiet grace. Families flawed, loves imperfect, but all marching toward light. Back in Seville as August waned, the women packed for departures, Avery to Ohio for fall semester, Mila to a linguistics internship in Madrid. The apartment echoed with half-packed boxes, but their nights were full. Rooftop stargazing, confessions whispered over gelato, plans sketched like futures on napkins. New York next summer? Mila murmured one dawn, fingers tracing Avery's collarbone. Or sooner, Avery replied, sealing it with a kiss. On her last day, as the train to Madrid idled at Santa Justa station, Mila pressed a locket into Avery's hand. Inside, a tiny photo of them from Cadiz, sun-kissed and secret shared. No more leaks, she whispered. Just us everywhere. Avery boarded with a heart heavy yet hopeful, Seville shrinking to a golden blur. The betrayal had spread her truth like wildfire, scorching paths she hadn't chosen. But from the ashes she'd risen. Not alone but entwined with Mila, their story a testament. Love once betrayed could bloom human, resilient, real. In the end, it wasn't the outing that defined her. It was the coming home, to herself, to them. And as the olive groves whipped past, Avery smiled. The world knew now. But they knew each other best.